welcome. And this week we're doing a Celtic mountain hike. We're climbing Ingleborough, one of the Yorkshire Dales 3 peaks, as if you didn't know that. And the plan today, I was dropped off at Stores Common by Mrs. WC21 UK Productions Limited, and then she drove me on up to just past the now defunct Hill Inn. So I've set off from there. I'm going to go over the top of the mountain, down the other side, back to my car. So that's the plan. Let's get on with it. Now, this route does coincide with the famous Yorkshire Dales 3 Peaks route, but I have a number of alternative paths that I tend to use to sort of keep out of their way. This hike is packed full of history. Atop the mighty Ingleborough is a mighty Iron Age fort, and we're going to take a look to that. The name itself is interesting historically, Ingleborough. We know what the borough bit comes from. It's Anglo-Saxon for burh, which means sort of fortified place, fortified hilltop. But the Ingle part is one that prompts much debate. You do need to be careful you don't fall down these, what are they called, grikes, I think they are, in the limestone pavement. One of the ideas is that Ingle comes from Old Scots, meaning beacon. And another idea is that it's Old Danish for English. You'll find, yeah. And then finally, it could be Old English for peak, ing, meaning peak. And I guess the problem is that all three of those options work, don't they? I'm just going to have a little bit of a rest here, and it's a good opportunity to show you the sort of flat top there on Ingleborough, which is where the ironagehillfort was. For many years, they thought it was a Roman camp. It was almost as if the experts didn't believe that the Celtic Britons were capable of putting a fort up there. But the experts were wrong. They could, and they did. Oh, and the Romans, it is believed, actually called it the King's Fort. As we get up to the lower slopes of Ingleborough, you can see how defendable it was, what a great place it was for a fort, for a base. And it was the Brigantes who were here, and this Roman name of the King's Fort, or the King's Hill, apparently comes from the idea that Venusius, remember him? He who divorced Cartimandu. So the idea is that he holed up here for a time when Cartimandu was allying herself with the Romans. And then from a hiking perspective, we are at what is possibly the toughest part of the route from this side. I don't know if you can see up here, we have this sort of zigzaggy route, which is not a welcome sight when this is the third peak on your 3 Peaks challenge. But I've been there, seen it and done it. Right, let's get on with this. Of course, you do the equivalent of the Yorkshire Dales 3 Peaks when you film these videos, because you keep having to go back and forth to set the camera up to make it look like you're walking by. You see, I'll have to come back in a few moments to collect the camera. Now, one of the ideas that the experts have about the fort on the top of Ingleborough is that they think it was used all year round, which seems crazy to me in terms of the climate, because it's very often absolutely horrendous up there basically, but also because of this. It's not really a location where you can comfortably sort of come and go with ease. made light work of that. There is just no way they did that on a daily basis. Neat transition. It's difficult to believe that our Iron Age Celtic ancestors would have gone back and forth up and down here with their sort of daily sort of chores. I think this must have just been a fort for times of threat, where they would have retreated to, and you wouldn't really want to be the enemy, would you, that's trying to mount an assault on this. Anyway, we haven't finished. Now, as we approach the top, you get a good sense of what would have faced any enemy wanting to attack the Brigantes, Venusius, whoever it was that was up here. You know, look at that. You just wouldn't, would you? I've made it to the summit. Now, Ingleborough has a massive flat summit plateau. Here on the eastern side are some of the best preserved remains of the Brigantes Iron Age fort. After nearly 2,000 years, there's obviously been a lot of robbing of stone, but here on the eastern edge, you can see the earthwork, and there's a lot of stone left on it. What a sort of formidable place this would have been to attack, even if you were a Roman. Look at that, Venusius's defences. And the robbing of the stonework sadly continues to this day. People take stones from this and then spell out their names. Sharon loves Gary. Roman or Pict? You just wouldn't, would you? It might be high summer, but I'm now having to hold on to the tripod in case it blows over the edge. There's the shelter over there. I'm going to go and have some lunch, and I imagine you probably want to watch. I've had my lunch now and I've met some new friends, hopefully subscribers too. I told them a little bit about the ironage hill fort here, but they had to leave in a hurry. I understand that. They're on the Yorkshire Dales Free Peaks challenge. It is blisteringly cold up here, even though it's high summer. And it's difficult to believe the experts when they say that tribes lived up here all year round. The argument is that the climate was more temperate then, and they cite evidence such as the Romans having vineyards in the northeast, but I don't know about all of that. That sounds like it could very well be. Now, if you come up here looking for the Iron Age hill fort, just over there on the western edge, you'll see another big lump of old stone. That is not anything to do with the hill fort. It's the remains of a tower that was built in 1830. I think it was called the Hospice or something like that. Anyway, it didn't last very long. It was all smashed to pieces by overexcited locals. I'm setting off now on my descent of the other side of the mountain. I think you've probably watched a little bit of a B-roll for the descent because it was a bit windy for filming and I lost my mojo, basically. I hope you've enjoyed the hike and the history. Like and subscribe, and until next week, keep on hiking and stay tuned. And that's the first sign of habitation on this entire walk. And this rambling hike has been brought to us today by Heineken Zero. Ideal for those of us who are currently on the wagon.